Hi, Councillor Kimmer, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yep, we can, yep.
Then just tell her she just needs to
Okey-dokey.
mute.
So just mute when you're not speaking.
I will, and if somehow, yeah, I have to leave at 6, Terry.
Okay,
I
okay,
have to go to soccer practice
okay, okay.
with my granddaughter, so.
Okay,
Okay.
just maybe let me, well, when you're out, that's okay. If you
Yeah.
want to tell
I'll just
council,
close
or
it.
you can just go and I'll let them know you're not there anymore.
Yeah, the mayor knows that I'm leaving at 6,
Okay,
so.
sounds good. All right,
Okay.
thanks. There yet.
Well, thank you for everyone joining us. Today it's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order on a beautiful Saskatchewan, soon to be spring day. It's getting better out there. I'd like to first acknowledge that we're on Treaty 6 land, the home of the Métis, and I'd ask everyone to remind you about your cell phones. If you don't have a vibrate motion, that you shut them off so it does not disturb our meeting. And I'll ask everyone to rise and the city clerk to say the prayer.
O God, let us each in our own way ask your wisdom and guidance in our deliberations. Help us to incorporate into all our decisions those values which will enable us to fulfill our mission, to act as responsible stewards, and to respect and value the cultural and spiritual tradition of all citizens of the city of Prince Albert. For this we pray. Amen.
Thank you. And today joining us remotely is Councillor Dawn Kilmer. She's away and she's joining us remotely. So I apologize if I call her by another councillor's name when I ask for the vote because I've been so used to it, and welcome. Okay, so with that, before we move the approval of the agenda, there is 3 items. One proclamation to be added, and then under reports of committees, I'd like to deal with these 2 reports because we have staff that I would like to have leave. And so we'll deal with them as number 1 items under reports. And one is the asphalt negotiated price and the other one's the concrete. So those are the 3 items to be added to the agenda. So then if I could, Councillor Zierakowski.
Your Worship, I'll move that agenda as presented and added to as amended, but also we have a guest in the gallery that is dealing with item 11.8, so I wonder if appropriate if we could move that up the list as well.
Absolutely, 11.8, Ted. Yep, thank you very much for that one. Okay, and I'll do that in the route. Okay, so I'll do the asphalt, the cement, and then I'll go to number 8. Okay, seconder, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Question is now open. Councillor Kilmer.
Yes.
Thank you. Scared me. Thank you. Passes. Number 4, presentations. We have none. Number 5, declaration of conflict of interest. We all understand that if we have a conflict item, that we notify the city clerk and we excuse ourselves at the time. Number 6, adoption of the minutes. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. That the minutes of the council regular meeting held April 25th, 2022 be taken, read, and adopted.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Head.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. And I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. Councillor Kilmer.
Yes.
He's a no. Thank you. Motion carries. Number 7, notice of proclamation. So I had a few this month. 7.1, Community Powwow Day, May 27th, 2022. 7.2, Naturopathic Medical Week. I practiced. May 15th to the 21st. 7.3, National Public Works Week, March 15th to the 21st of May. So Public Works, congratulations. So did I get the week off, or the goal is to do more work? I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. 7.4, Royal Purple Week, May 15th to the 22nd. 7.5, National Deafblind Awareness Week, June of 22. And then 7.6 is the one that was added, Saskatchewan Sexual Violence Awareness Week, which is May 16th to the 20th. So those are my proclamations. Number 8, public hearings. We have public hearing 8.1, bylaw number 12, rezoning of land, FUD, Future Urban Development, C4, Highway Commercial, P Park, M3, Large Lot Industrials. So I will open this public hearing. I now declare open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to any of these items from the public? I see none. Administration, do you have anything to add? Go ahead, sir. Who? Gotta get him on paper. Go ahead, Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of council. Bylaw 12, as the clerk, as the agenda shows, is for second and third reading this evening. We are rezoning the future home of our rink and aquatic centers. The Future Urban Development District, the FUD district, is a holding district until we are certain of what we want to do with the land to protect it from future land uses. Obviously, we're at a point where we're now able to move forward with our planning. At the previous council meeting, we also approved 3 commercial lots as well. So this rezoning is to accommodate those 3 commercial lots along with our purchase for our aquatic center. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. With that, I see no one else in the public has come forward. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and I turn it over to council. What's your wish? Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I agree. And I agree that we go to second and third reading, that bylaw number 12 of 2022 be given second and third reading.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Edwards.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. The vote's now open. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 12 of 2022 to amend zoning bylaw number 1 of 2019 to rezone land within and surrounding the signature development lands known as the Yard from future urban development to C4 highway commercial or P Park. This bylaw is for second and third readings today.
Thank you. Councillor Cody.
Yes, I move that bylaw number 12 of 2022 be read a second time.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
I'll second that, Mayor Dion.
Thank you. And I'll prompt the question. The question is now open. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor?
In favor. Thank you. Carries unanimously. Motion carries. Councillor Cody.
Yes, I move that bylaw number 12 of 2022 be read a third time and passed, and that bylaw number 12 of 2022 be now adopted, sealed, and signed by the mayor and city clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Seconded.
Thank you. And I'll prompt the question. Question is now open. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor?
Favor. Thank you. Motion carries. Again, unanimously. Thank you. Okay. 8.2. Bylaw number 13 of 22, rezoning bylaw review and amendments. So again, I declare this a public hearing, and I'll ask if anyone from the public has any comments on this bylaw. I see nobody moving from the public, so I'll ask the director for comments. Back to you, Director of Planning, Craig Gittenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of council. You'll recall in 2019, we approved a new zoning bylaw after about a 30-year hiatus. Our most recent before then was 1987. At that time, we did commit to do a review every 2 to 3 years to ensure that it does stay current and up to date. So the bylaw 13 of 22 in front of you is for second and third reading. No huge changes that are going to, I don't believe, upset the public or members of council, rather to streamline some processes, a few typographical errors, things like that. So unless you've got any specific questions, that's all I have this evening.
Okay. Is there any questions? No? So with no questions from here, I'll close the debate, and I'll turn the debate now over to council. What's your wish? Councillor Edwards.
Also move that bylaw number 13 of 2022 be given second and third reading.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Miller?
I'll second Mayor Dion.
Thank you. City Clerk? Oh, yeah, we got to vote first. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. The question's now open. Councillor Kilmer?
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries. Now, City Clerk.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 13 of 2022 to amend zoning bylaw number 1 of 2019 to amend various housekeeping matters. This bylaw is for second and third readings today.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards?
Thank you. Also move the bylaw number 13 of 2022 be read a second time.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
I'll second Mayor Dion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Councillor Kilmer?
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries. Councillor Edwards?
Thank you. Also move the bylaw number 13 of 2022 be read a third time and passed, and the bylaw number 13 of 2022 be now adopted, sealed, and signed by the mayor and city clerk.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second Mayor Dion.
Thank you very much. I'll prompt the question. Councillor Kilmer?
In favor?
Thank you. A motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to number 9, delegations. There is none. Number 10, communications. There isn't any. Number 11, reports of administration and committees. So the first report we will tackle is the one that's added, and that's for the asphalt supply and paving 2022. Councillor Cody.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree that administration's recommendation, and so I will move that the city enters into a second year of the negotiated supply contract for asphalt supply and paving with B&B Construction Group, Inc., with the option of 2-year additional years. And number 2, that administration be authorized to negotiate the 2022 asphalt and paving price schedule with B&B Construction Group, Inc., and 3, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the 2022 asphalt supply and paving contract within the approved 2022 budgets and any other documents on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards?
Second this, your worship.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Miller?
Thanks, Mayor Dion. So it says a 2-year negotiated contract. How many years is this for? Was it for in the beginning?
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you for that question. We've always traditionally bargained for or entered into a 4-year contract, total of 4 years, so 1 year at a time. So each year we bring it back to council for reapproval for the following year. At the end of 4 years, then we go back to the public with a new RFP.
So this is our second year of 4.
Correct.
Okay, and I do realize how important these two items actually are. I'm just wondering why they're late coming and they weren't provided on the reading we had to do on Sunday. So why wasn't the report included?
It was just that we had a short staffing issue, and we wanted to get it on this agenda.
Yeah, I understand that it needed to be on this agenda, but so why was the report late to begin with?
We were short one staff member that was responsible for it, so we delayed it, but we allowed it at agenda review to come on this
Thank you.
agenda. Okay? Thank you. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question to administration. The map on April 13th is a little bit different than the map on May 5th. Now, is that an updated map of all the paving projects? I noticed Davis Street has been left off May 5th map where it was included on the April 13th map.
Director of Public Works.
Yes, thank you for that question. So yes, you are correct. As you can see in the report, we talk about the price of asphalt, price of oil, and the war in Ukraine has caused an impact to those. The price of fuel at the pumps is up 80% over last year. Oil is up 50%, and it impacted asphalt 27%. So with the increased cost of asphalt, which is a major part of the roadway program, we had to reduce the number of streets that will get completed in this fiscal year to stay on budget. Those streets will be put at the very top of the list for next year, or if something else falls off the list because of something outside of our control, they would be added back in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I see no one else in the queue. I'll prompt the question. Uh-oh. 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 Stand by. Oh. Oh, okay. So it's here, just. Oh, right there. And that's the same thing we're applying. Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, the question's now open. Councillor Kilmer?
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, then our next item is another added item for the same thing. That's why it's late. We were delayed. And that is for the 22 concrete, supply of concrete and insulation. Motion, Councillor Cody. You're spending all the money.
Nobody wants their sidewalks done, I guess. Yes, I move that the city enters into the second year of negotiated supply contract for concrete supply and installation with Wheatland Builders and Concrete Limited with the option of 2 additional years. Number 2, that administration be authorized to negotiate the 2022 concrete price schedule with Wheatland Builders and Concrete Limited, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the 2022 concrete supply and installation contract approved in the 2022 budget and any other documentation on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question about the report. I know in some other reports we see in our minutes have a list of other contractors who had supplied their expression of interest. This report doesn't contain that. Could you speak to that, Director of Public Works?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the same as the asphalt program, this is the second year of that contract. So this company had the contract last year when we had the RFP out. So they were a successful bidder. So this is just an additional year with the same contractor. And we don't have any issue with going forward with them again. The prices are reasonable.
Thank you, Your Worship. So will we see another expression of interest come out next year and have other companies?
No, it's a
No.
Again, just like the asphalt, it's every 4 years. So the contract is 1 year at a time for a maximum of 4. So at the end of 4 years, then we would have an expression of interest.
Okay, with that, I see no one else in the queue. So now I know where to find it, at the bottom. Okay, questions now. Omen, Councillor Kilmer?
In favor?
Favor? Motion carries. Thank you. So get rid of this one. Okay, and then I'm going to move item 11.8, Prince Albert Golf and Curling Club Center concession proposal. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that a bill of sale between the city and the Prince Albert Golf and Curling Center for the concession building located between the 7th and 8th holes at Cook Municipal Golf Course be approved, and that number 2, the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute legal documents on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Councillor Cody.
Yes, I second it.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Do you have a comment, Councillor Cody? Your light's on.
Yep,
Yeah, if you just shut it off and then put it back on. Okay, you can put your light back on. Then go ahead, Councillor Zerkowski.
Thank you, Worship. The only question I have is, we had discussed at executive about the, after a period of time goes by, a new board comes into play, and they make decisions about that building. And I'm wondering about the process of what happens then. I'm totally in favor of this recommendation, totally makes sense. I think we need to move forward to that. I think it increases the value of that building. It's not being used, it needs to be looked after. But in terms of the contract moving forward, in terms of the agreement moving forward, what happens if the board of the day at some point in time in the future decides a different purpose for that building?
Okay. I'm glad you were turning your light on. Maybe this will solve. I would like to ask for a friendly amendment. That administration to be directed to include the bill of sale, an option that the city repurchase the asset for $1 if the Golf and Curling Club at any time it intends the change or the use of the asset. So I think that would cover it.
So I think we're talking about at least a first right of refusal if the
Correct.
board feels it's no longer in their best interest to make use of that building at some future point in time.
Yes.
The city will have the first phone call.
Yes, and also the price of $1, once we're giving it to them. So who made the motion? Do you have a problem with that friendly amendment? No, I agree. Okay, seconder? Councilor Cody, you don't, so do you know what it is? Okay. Yeah, when I read the agreement, I too had clauses about use and transfer. So, okay. Well, she types that, Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor Dion. So we discussed it also at Executive Council about it being a public asset, and how we sell public assets is a process. And I was wondering how come we're not following that process?
Okay, who wants to tackle that question? Oh, our solicitor? Okay, if you hit your button there. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for the question. I believe we are, and I had circulated to Mayor's inquiry the steps and procedures. This is a public asset that isn't being sold at market value. It's being sold for $1, and it requires that council approve that by resolution.
So even though that we don't own the golf and curling club or center, or do we?
We don't own the golf and curling center.
Right, and so they're not a city entity, and so we're handing it over for $1. So I think the process is not being followed for some reason or another. If you
Cities, thank you again for the question. Councillor, the Cities Act requires that if an asset of the city, which is the structure that it will be sold by bill of sale if council approves it, would be, if it's being sold at less than market value, council itself has to approve that purchase price. That's the procedure.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll move the recommendation. Well, I won't move the recommendation, sorry. I'll move the vote. Oh, how do I gotta find that, man? Sorry. Right here, 2.8, yep. Yep. Okay, it's now open. Councillor Kilmer?
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries 8-1. Okay, so with that, yeah, if you'd like to pardon yourself, sir, and Darcy, that will continue on. So we'll start now going back to the original part of the agenda, which is 11.1, Development Permit Application Child Care Center, 215 12th Street West. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the discretionary use development permit application for a child care center for up to 20 children to be located at 215 12th Street West be approved, subject to A, the applicant submitting all required plans for review and approval by administration, and 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any necessary agreements related to this application on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Zierkowski.
I will second that. I have a couple of questions, if I may.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
So in terms of this, the neighbors, in terms of the children being dropped off and picked up, what can the neighbors expect in terms of parking, in terms of, is there any additional signage needed? I know that in some of the daycares, they're ideally located because there's a bit of a parking lot in the front, so there's come and go without congesting the area. So just in terms for the public that's listening, or they may give us a call for questions, what can they expect in terms of the frequency of drop-off, the time of day, the availability, those types of parking questions?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Zierkowski, for the question. So a couple things. Firstly, to clarify, although this is a 20-space childcare center, it doesn't necessarily mean that there'll be 20 children there. So as an example, an infant is worth 4 spaces. A toddler is worth 2 spaces. Someone over, I think, 3 years old is worth 1 space. So it could be as little as 4 infants, or it could be as many as 20 children. So that is up to the agency responsible, along with the ministry, to determine those childcare spaces. We did try to press a little bit to find out what they're going to be looking at for parking, because that's a great question that obviously affects the neighborhood. We abut a commercial zone, and we also abut a residential zone, so that's a serious consideration. They don't know, to be perfectly frank. They don't know how many children they're going to be looking at. There is a supply-demand issue that needs to be considered, and they'll be working closely with the province. I will say, however, that they do have limited space on the site for on-site parking, because on-site parking is required, so they are limited to that. So they don't necessarily, I would suggest that they will not be able to have a full complement of 20 children with 4 or 5 staff. They simply won't have enough parking, so they are going to be managed that way as well. I'm told that it is your kind of typical morning to early evening spaces, and that could fluctuate a little bit over time. So that's the information I've got for you this evening.
Okay, so then what I've heard, and I'm going to paraphrase, make sure I've heard this, is the agency and the government has gave no thought to the parking at this location that will be necessary for this use.
Yeah, thank you for the question. They've given thought in that there is parking available on site. It is limited. You could only fit probably four or five staff parking spots there without spilling over onto the street, which we wouldn't allow. So that's the thought they've given, and they've been made aware of the limited parking available. So they'll be sure to take that into consideration when they allow for a certain amount of children.
Okay, I think that's good for now. I guess we'll see how it evolves and see what fits within the area. The other question I had is the number 20. If that were to increase, would that be a requirement to come back to council, or could they just move ahead and increase that to 4 infants and half a toddler?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Anything over, once you get over 20, it really complicates things from a building code perspective as well. You got to, fire safety and those types of things. So there are a lot of changes that would be put into place. So I would say that yes, they would absolutely be required to come back to council and come back to the city for a number of different permitting processes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you. My question's to the director as well. Is this the former Lucy Baker School site? Is that what it is? Okay. So, I mean, you had an alternate high school there. 3 staff, full-time staff, and then students that used to come there. I think the space is going to be well used. It's good to see that, because it's a good building. It's good that somebody came forward to set up this, and so I fully support this. And as far as parking goes too, I know there was on-site parking. I had to, part of my job required me to go there several times, and I never ever had a problem even parking on the street. There's never, there's 2 sides, on the other side is the Optimus Center or whatever, or the gymnastics center. So there's nobody parked there during the day on the north side of the street. So there's lots of parking there. And then on the south side, I think there's only a couple houses, and then there's a church or a business on that corner. So I don't think parking is going to be a huge problem. And I'm very glad that a good building is being put to good use in our community. There is a demand, so I support this fully.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zepp.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question for the director. I have heard from that neighborhood that there are concerns being raised about parking and more traffic in the area for 20 children, or up to 20 children, we should say. So I just wanted to confirm my understanding of what you said is that in regards to staffing parking, that staff will either be parking on the site, not on the street, and that is the intention. Did I understand that correctly?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lennox Zepp. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I see no more questions. So I'll prompt the question in the queue. Good discussion. Queue is now open. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor?
Favor. Thank you. Carries. Thank you. 11.2, snow blower tender. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the tender for the purchase of a new snow blower be awarded to Falcon Equipment at a cost of $207,292.50, which includes applicable taxes funded from the equipment replacement reserves, and 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any applicable documents on behalf of the city once, if required.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Sierakowski.
Your Worship, I'm curious if and question to the department, I suppose, if the operator of this unit or the operators of this unit, were they consulted with, did they have their input given as to the best product, choices available throughout the selection process?
Director of Public Works.
Thank you for that question. The answer is yes. On each piece of equipment, before we go to tender, the managers make a selection process, and then we go to the actual mechanics and the operators and get their input, because there's always little idiosyncrasies go, oh, that's a feature that we don't want, or that's a feature that we would like to have.
Yeah, whether it's a duplication of the last one because it worked so well, we need it for parts, or it wasn't so, it didn't work so well, we need to go to a different model.
Exactly.
So they've had their input.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other concerns or questions? Seeing no one in the queue. I'll prompt the question. Question is now open. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, 11.3, skid steer loader tender. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the tender number 23 of 2022 for the purchase of a new skid steer loader be awarded to Finding Equipment at a cost of $129,868.89, which includes applicable taxes funded from their equipment replacement reserve, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any applicable documents on behalf of the city if required.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Edwards.
I'll second this, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll prompt the vote. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor?
In favor, thank you. Motion carries. $11.4, transit bus tender. Councillor Zierakowski.
I will move that tender number 26 of 2022 for the purchase of a new paratransit bus be awarded to Warner Bus Industries at a cost of $160,839, including all taxes, funded from the Fleet Equipment Reserve and the Transit Assistance for People with Disabilities Grant, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any applicable documents on behalf of the city when ready.
Councillor Brodnick.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cody.
Yeah, just a very quick question. I'm just wondering, do we ever go back to the government to see if we can get a little bit more of the percentage that they pay for this, these kinds of units? Because after all, everything's going up, and they've been paying that amount for quite some time, which is appreciated, but at the same time, you know, things start rising, and just wondering if there's any negotiation goes on with the provincial government to rise that, that amount.
Thank you. Director of Public Works.
Thank you for that question. It's a very good question. In this particular case, we haven't yet, but we definitely will be, because luckily our manager of fleet gets all of his tenders out early in the year as soon as the budgets were approved. So these all came out before the war, and the prices have gone through the roof since that time, and the next one will even cost more. So we're going to have to go to the province and ask them to raise that amount, because now it's not even getting close to covering the value of those buses.
Good question. Okay, I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries. 11.5, Airport Terminal Detailed Design Award. Councillor Ed.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the professional agreement for the detailed design of the new airport terminal be awarded to Prairie Architect, Inc. for an estimated cost of $635,040 plus applicable taxes, that the architectural design fees be funded from the passenger facility fee reserve, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement and any other necessary documents on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Cody?
Yes, I second that motion.
Thank you. I see no one in the queue. Delayed action, Councillor Zierakowski. Councillor Zierakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Couple of questions, if I may.
Certainly.
Starting with why now? And I do believe that we need a new airport terminal and a design that fully is able to handle the volume that we need there, and the needs are sort of, there's been a bit of a miss there for the last number of years. So my question is, I'll start with why now? My other question is, this is asking for a detailed design of the terminal. In terms of process, what does that mean insofar as our other priorities? And I guess, better asked, what are the expectations for administration and council once the detailed design, if this passes, goes through? We have another number of other needs. We've been talking for years about moving up the old yards, city yards, to the new city yards. We have a need in our city for a couple of secondary fire halls in our city. So where does this fit in terms of that list of priorities and expectations? Because if we're moving forward with a detailed design of over $600,000 at this point, what's that level of expectation? Certainly in the past, having plans on the shelf ready to go when other levels of government come with an envelope full of cash and say, we're going to match you, we need some money, but you need to be shovel ready. Are you ready? Then we can say, yes, we are ready for a new terminal design, absolutely, and that's great. But I don't see this project moving forward without higher levels of government, or other, sorry is a better word, other levels of government. So can I just get some clarity on those two questions, please?
And very good questions.
Thank you very-
Director of Public Works.
Thank you very much for those questions. So the priority here is not greater than, say, for the new yards or the old yards or any other project. But the priority here is because it's part of the airport budget and the airport reserve. So the funding that's coming to pay for this comes out of the passenger facility fee reserve that was specifically set up for only one purpose, and that was to build a new terminal building. So we've collected $2.7 million into that fund, more than sufficient funds to pay for the detailed design, but not sufficient funds to yet build the building. But it is sufficient funds to pay our share if we had an Infrastructure Canada program grant. So the idea here, it came out of the Airport Strategic Master Plan from last year of 2021. And one of the Strategic Master Plan bullets was to get the design done on your new terminal so that you can be on the shelf, shovel ready for if one of these programs specifically is targeted at airports. And as you can see, last year we were successful in over $5 million worth of funding for our airport. In previous years, many other programs. So that's the gist of it. That's the cause of why we want to move forward. And it's independent of MSC because this funding was raised for that purpose only, and it's in a reserve that can only be used for the terminal design and construction.
Thank you.
Okay. So to sum it up, there's no taxpayer dollars. This is all money we collected from everyone that got onto a plane.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
That's what we need to have said. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, the question's now open. Councillor Kilmer?
In favor?
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. 11.6, 2022 Dust Suppression Program. Councillor Miller?
That bylaw number 15 of 2022 be introduced and given 3 readings.
Thank you. Seconder? Counselor Zepp,
I'll second.
thank you. Any comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Oh. Counselor Edwards.
Thank you, Your Worship. I didn't see entirely in the report, maybe I didn't look close enough, but back alleys tend to have some issues throughout the year. I know some of the back alleys, there's houses right beside them. Are we able to have a look at some of those? I'm sure you're aware of which ones and apply something to them because the dust flies right into these homes. It's very unfortunate and it's very close to their houses and they can't open their windows in the summer and that's an issue.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you for the question. So this whole program falls under a bylaw, and it's a requirement that if you want dust control, dust suppression, you have to have a petition to move it forward. We've only ever done streets. It doesn't mean that we can't do lanes, but it would require a petition, and the people for that lane on both sides would have to get 50% or above in favor of it, and then that petition could move forward. But without a petition, I'm in no position to do oiling of any lanes. We can always patrol the lanes and grade them, but we can't oil them without a petition through the bylaw.
Okay. And that's good to know. The unfortunate part of a petition is sometimes they're not held very high.
No.
And that's the issue, right? So
Yeah, I think he's missing one other part, the cost.
There is a cost.
yeah, of course there's a cost. But I think in some circumstances, certainly not all, that if they do come forward, they're willing to eat some of that cost because they can't open their windows in the summer. And that's a problem.
Absolutely. And every year this is advertised, and every year we encourage, any graveled road could petition. This list almost never changes. Well, I can't remember the last time anyone added themselves to the list. I can't.
Good to know. Thank you.
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I interested to read the report. I guess one thing it doesn't speak to is how many times does a resident get oiled their streets? I see the cost there laid out and kind of describes how a resident gets paid and of course gets added to the taxes, but how many times does this benefit amount come back to the resident?
You get 2 oilings per year. So one will be right away as soon as this petition passes, and once the area has been patrolled, graded, and then it'll be oiled, and then you get one later in the summer when conditions call for it. So we try to put it off until things start to get dusty, and then we do all the streets again.
Okay, so residents can expect to happen, relatively soon after this meeting, I guess,
Yes.
in the coming weeks. I know you've probably been asked this question before, but I've been asked that. Could you speak to, like you mentioned, petitions when it comes to getting lanes, alleys oiled? What's the process to get these streets actually paved? Because I do find it quite unfortunate. I had to live on one of these roads for most of my time here in Prince Albert, and it is something that I will always question, and I get questions too. So can you speak to the process and how we get these roads paved?
Yes, and the petition process for oiling is pretty much the same process for getting a road paved. You have to have a petition, you have to have more than 50% of the frontage of that street on both sides in favor of it, and then it has to come to council for approval. And as the mayor pointed out, there is a cost to that. So there is a local improvement that you can either A, pay up front, or B, have added to your taxes over a period of time. And I believe it's 5 or 10 years. And with a small inflationary cost, so the city doesn't lose money, but they don't make money. So I think right now it's under 2%. That's what we've been charging. But again, just like the oiling program, we haven't had a petition in front of city council for better part of a decade. We had one a few years ago. Councillor Miller got it to council. It got first reading, and then it never got past the second reading because people changed their mind on that block, and they came forward and voted it down.
Okay, I have a question for the director. Okay, are we going to be affected like our paving program, or do we use an oil program on this? I know we've tried some kind of rhino snot or, and then we tried some kind of canola oil. We've tried 3 or 4 products. Well, I'm concerned because I just read the report about the price of oil, 27%. Is that going to affect it, or do we use a different product now?
We've been using canola oil for the last few years very successfully. It is incredible how it binds the road together, and that's what we've been using, and it's been a great product. Now, having said that, on the same basis as petroleum oil has gone up, canola, all grains are going up because of course, the other bread basket, other than the 3 prairie provinces, Ukraine is not going to be planting this year, so prices are going to be up next year, and it could affect the overall cost of it for next year.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I have a question, Mayor Dion.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I did have a request for 16th Avenue West going from the railroad tracks up to Paulson Road, because the rotary trail goes there, and some people can't see cars coming because the dust is so much, and people actually walk their dogs coming down 6th Avenue or 16th Avenue West. Is there a chance for that to get maybe a little bit on each side done?
That's
a
something
very
that
good
definitely
idea.
would be on us, and we would look at that because there's no homes facing either side. Most of that land, some of it is the city, some of it's private, some of it's the hospital, but we did pave that little space, but yes, we could send our guys over there to sweep it off, maybe clear some of the loose material, and maybe just put a little on either side to keep it down. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a big distance. That's a very good safety item. Okay, now I'll prompt the question. Okay, questions now open. Councilor Kilmer,
In favor?
thank you. Motion carries. City Clerk.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 15 of 2022 to establish the 2022 charge for placing and maintaining a dustless surface in streets and lanes. This bylaw is for 3 readings today.
Thank you. Director of Public Works. Shut your light off, please. Thank you. Councilor Miller.
That bylaw number 15 of 2022 be introduced and given a first reading.
Leave your light on. Leave your light on in the future. No problem. Seconder. Councilor Zepp.
I second.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councilor Kilmer.
In favor?
Thank you. Passed unanimously. Councilor Miller.
That bylaw number 15 of 2022 be given second reading.
Thank you. Councilor Zepp.
I second.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councilor Kilmer.
In favor?
Thank you. Passes unanimously. Councilor Miller.
That the leave be granted to read bylaw number 15 of 2022 a third time.
Thank you. Seconder. Councilor Zepp.
I second.
Thank you. Questions now open. Councilor Kilmer.
In favor?
Thank you. It's unanimous. Leave is granted. Councilor Miller.
That bylaw number 15 of 2022 be read a third time, passed, and that bylaw number 15 of 2022 now be adopted, sealed, signed by the mayor and city clerk.
Thank you. Councilor Zepp.
I second.
Thank you. Prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Kilmer.
In favor? And Mayor, I'll be leaving the meeting.
Thank you very much. Be safe. She's left the meeting. Okay, moving on to 11.7, 2022 encapsulation cell monitoring. Take that one. Councillor Zierakowski.
I will move that the professional services agreement for the 2022 groundwater monitoring and sampling be awarded to Wood Environment Infrastructure Solutions for an additional cost of $10,840 plus taxes. And the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement and any other documents on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Cody.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I see no one in the queue with questions.
Yes,
Oh, you do? Go ahead, Councillor Cody.
yeah, I just wanted to congratulate the folks here. We've been talking about this for a long, long time, and that, you know, we have to do this work that sometimes doesn't appear quite necessary. And they're now recognizing, and in their statement, they say, if the results are going to be like previous years, they are going to go to the Department of Environment and say, look, the time has come. We shouldn't have to do this cell encapsulating and looking at the cell every year. Maybe every 2 years or 3 years would suffice. And that would certainly save us some costs. And I appreciate the fact that they are looking into that.
Thank you very much. So I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Motion carries. Okay, we did 11.8, so we'll jump to 11.9. Small World Daycare Lease Agreement, East End Community Club. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that a lease agreement between the city and Small World Daycare Cooperative Inc. for 3,480 square foot multi-purpose space be located within the East End Community Club Hall for a 3-year term from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025, with a 2-year renewal option be approved, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. Any questions? It's just in the future for the department, if you could remember to put the lease price in so that we know what the lease rate is. We normally have that as well for the public to know, so they don't read the reports, we do. So in the future, if you could just say what the first year lease rental is and then inflation after that. Thank you. So we'll move on to 11. We're going to move on to the vote. Just testing. The vote is now open and carried. Thank you. 11.10, Lakeland Field Naming Rights Agreement. Councillor Edwards.
Also move that Lakeland Ford Park naming rights agreement between the city and the Cook family in the amount of $3,000 per year for 3 years ending December 31st, 2024 be approved. And 2, the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. Any comments? I see nothing in the queue. It's now open. Oh, I almost said Council Gilmer. Motion carries. Cook Municipal Golf Course sponsorship agreements. Councillor Zierakowski. Councillor Zierakowski? How did? How? He beat you in the queue. Councillor Zierakowski.
Well, take a rest, my friend.
You can second it.
So I'll move that the Cook Municipal Golf Course sponsorship agreement between the city and Affinity Credit Union in the amount of $5,000 for the year 2022 and ending December 31st of the same year be approved, and that the Cook Municipal Golf Course sponsorship agreement between the city and TP Fuel Convenience Limited in the amount of $5,000 per year for 2 years ending on December 31st, 2023 be approved. And that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreements on behalf of the city. And I believe that's it.
That's it. Seconder. Councillor Cody.
Yeah, I'll second it and certainly say again, as I have before, that, we have to appreciate the business community coming forward, not only for the golf and curling or the golf course, but for a lot of things in our community. Now here we have a brand new business, not even a business in a year here, and they've stepped up to the plate, and that's Tippy Fuel Convenience Place. And I really appreciate the fact that Mr. Vance has gone out and met these people and convinced them, obviously, to support our community. And these are good community events, and they're good community-minded people. And of course, Affinity does well by us because that's our credit union, and that. But nevertheless, it's appreciated that they have come forward.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. And carried. Okay, moving to 11.12, Housing Program Update. Councillor Zepp.
Thank you. I have some additional language for the motion. It's very similar. The city clerk may have it. It's from Councillor Kilmer's email to the city clerk. So if I can put that on the board, I can read it if that helps. That a first-time homeowners program communication plan be reviewed and developed in consultation with the communication department and planning and development to maximize uptake of this program. Oh, there it is. Thank you. And so I'll move that.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Miller.
I'll second Mayor Dion.
Councillor Zepp.
Yeah, I can just speak to it briefly. It's I'm making the motion, but the wording is from Councillor Kilmer. And the idea just fleshing out the idea of this motion to proceed with communication for I guess, looking at the purpose of it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion is now open. Carried. Thank you. 11.13, Prince Albert Police Service Proactive Policing Strategy Costs 2021. Councillor Edwards.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
Also move that the remaining $463,777.05 allocated to the Board of Police Commissioners for the proactive police strategy for the year 2021 be placed in the proactive policing reserve to fund the approved multi-year proactive policing strategy.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Cody.
Yes, I second, and then I have a quick comment.
Go ahead, sir.
As well. You know, I'm sure one of the questions that will be asked of us, or of the police commission, is why didn't you spend the money? Why did you leave it flop over to next year as a reserve? We need policing, and we should have done that. But the quick answer to that is that we can't get policemen trained. There's no training spots, and that's a crime and a shame in our society today when we need these kinds of officers to help out in proactive, particularly in proactive policing kinds of activities. It's just too bad, you know. We've only got 30 spots, and that's 30 spots for all of Saskatchewan. That's not very much when it comes to policing training. So I think I've talked to the mayor about this when I saw this on the agenda, and he agrees that probably what we should be doing is asking the provincial government to try and get a few more spaces each year so that we could train these people up. If you look at Saskatoon and Regina, they probably need 40 or 50 themselves. And we need 8 or 10, and we've got retirements coming on. So, you know, we're going to have a backlog for many years. So I think we should ask the provincial government to put on a few more training spots, just because I think we have the money. We put that away, and now we have it for next year. And I think it'd just be the right thing to do for our public.
Yeah, very good comments, and we do put as many policemen in as we can if they tell us they have these spots. But one of the other hurdles that we have is because our budget process was late this year. The intake is now, we have to go to August. We do have 4 members in now, but the 4 other ones will be going in August, and then we're going to send another 4 in January to get us caught up. But because we delayed our budget this year, we missed the January intake, and so now we're into August. Councillor Zepp.
First, a question for administration. I take it from this motion that these funds, if they get placed in the proactive policing reserve, I take it then that they will be spent in proactive policing? I think the city manager is probably the one to ask. Okay, I'm hearing yes. And then I just read from the report on this, the police base tax approved by council illustrated a funding model to support the hiring of 4 new police officers. The police service deployed the staff into a patrol support shift that serves primarily a proactive uniform support capacity. And the funds that were placed from that police base tax into policing then were not spent. There were more funds that were placed in than were able to be used, and that's why we're here.
Right, and this year we'll be fully up because we have 2 staff now, and we're expecting 2 more out of college. And then it'll be fully staffed. Councillor Head.
Just a follow-up, thank you, Your Worship. So you had said that we have 2 more currently, and we're getting 2 more. When can we see those, the other additions in August? Is that?
Well, I think they come in July.
July? Okay.
Yeah, and then I think the next class starts.
Okay, thanks.
But I'll confirm that and send out an email on the class date, so then we understand, because there's 2 inputs. Okay, with that, I'll prompt the question. Now, just before I prompt the question, there's one thing I forgot to add. Why, and maybe the people need to know this as well, why we all of a sudden showed up short-staffed is that we had our approved 4 positions, but we also got 3 more from the province of Saskatchewan, and we had 2 retirements. So we ended up being short 9. So we also are training the 2 new officers for the positions that the province did. Oop. Let me go to you, Councillor Head.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Just a follow-up. So my understanding is we have 11 funded by the provincial government, and so there's an additional 3 more?
No, we have 20.
20.
20 or 21.
And then we got additional 3 more positions?
Yes.
Oh, good. So we're the only city that did see that increase?
No, they all got it. But you got to remember, every time we get a position from the province, it's designated.
Right, yes.
So we can't put it like out in general patrol. No.
No,
And it's
not-
not fully funded. They only fund us 110 and they cost us about 135.
I realize we have funding for certain functions of our police, and that's why we see some of them on our highways, and we've kind of talked a
Yes.
little bit about that. But good to know. Thank you for that information.
You're welcome. Okay, I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to number 12, unfinished business. Is there a door open or something? I got an echo in this ear. Okay, no, so there's. Let it go, yeah. Okay, number 13, mayors and councilors forum. Councilor Cody.
Yeah, I just want to bring a congratulations to one of our fellow councilors. He received an award today from the Rotary Club. And as everybody knows, Dennis does I guess I shouldn't say Dennis, Councillor Algodnik does an awful lot of work with regards to history. And he was honored today as an outstanding citizen while teaching history and the work he goes through in teaching history. The Muni challenges our youth to respect culture, diversity, and differences of race and religion while retaining their own individualism and the best of their national customs and traditions. It's a Paul Harris Fellow recognition. And we want to say thank you very much, Dennis, for your good work in diversification and your good work in teaching history. And history is important to us in this council and certainly to this city. Thank you ever so much.
Okay, Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I just want to congratulate everyone in the room for joining in and doing the community cleanup this year. It was well taken in and well done by the community. And I'd like to give a few thank yous to our volunteers, the teachers, all the teachers and the schools that participated, all the students, and thank you to the principals for okaying all of this to happen, and Silkins for their continuous support with the slush, because there was one day for sure I needed a slush. I can guarantee you that. McDonald's Metals for taking all the metal and steel away from our bins so we don't use so much in the landfill. And Chris from Loras, great service from them always, and Greenland Waste and Tammy as well. PAGC for the use of the parking lot. It came in very handy, very centrally located between Ward 1 and Ward 2. And our public works staff did amazing work for us as well. In the mornings before we got there, I'm sure they had quite a bit to do. And the Saturday had very many appliances to pick up. A group fell through. And thank them for all their work, and all the councillors for their hard work as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cody, for those kind words. I too want to thank the people that were involved in the community cleanup in particular. And in our Ward 5-6, it was Trevor, Ben, Rose, Arnie, Darcy, Pete, Diane, and Bonnie as volunteers. So thank you very much. Free Methodist Church for the use of their lot. McDonald's Metals and Greenland Waste, which was also mentioned. And also the city sanitation staff. In particular, I think it was Arnie, his name. Is there an Arnie from the landfill? Adrian. Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic on Saturday when he came around and helped pick up appliances and actually we pulled stuff out of one dumpster because the church was going to put it in their yard sale. It was a perfectly good love seat, and then the janitor there was repairing stuff, and actually a lot of people were recycling some of the stuff that other people were throwing away. So it turned out to be a very positive cleanup, and the staff at the landfill were very, very good, and I want you to thank them on our behalf for that. Second, I want to just congratulate both Carleton and St. Mary High School for bringing back live theater. Carleton had a play, and St. Mary Upstage Productions, I went to theirs, their dress rehearsal. So The Mouse That Roared, it was fantastic. It was a political satire. It was perfect for this day and age. A woman president of the United States. I thought that was pretty cool. I also want to congratulate, I think on behalf of the city, say, we're very proud of the canonization of Blessed Marie Riviere, who was canonized yesterday. What that means is she became a saint. And why I want to congratulate and mention this is that she was the founder of the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary. And I do believe Sister Lee's and a group of Marie Riviere board went to Rome and witnessed the canonization. A couple of friends of mine that were on that board went there. And so I think it's a big deal for the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary. They've been working on this for over 100 years, and finally it happened. So congratulations to the sisters and a Presentation of Mary in their determination to get their founder canonized. And last but not least, Councillor Miller and I attended the candlelight vigil for little Frank that happened last night on the riverbank, and Mayor Dion asked me to speak on behalf of the city at that particular candlelight vigil. And the message that we delivered to the family of little Frank was faith, hope, and love, that the city of Prince Albert offers and the citizens offer hope and love to this family, and faith that an outcome will happen and closure will be able to happen. As we all know, this little young man has been missing 28 days, little 5-year-old, I think it is, from the Red Earth First Nation. And it's a tragedy when a little child goes missing, and it affects us all. And we offered our support to the community of Red Earth and to the family in particular. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zepp.
Thank you very much. I also wanted to say thank you regarding the community cleanup that happened recently, and thank you to all volunteers and everyone involved. I know lots of people in the community really appreciated it happening, and it was really nice to see it happening throughout the entire city, and really nice that it was operated through our budget and that it went so smoothly. I specifically wanted to thank my Ward 1 buddy, Councillor Miller, for the guidance and mentorship that she gives to me. So I wanted to say thank you to her for that work.
Stand up.
We stand up enough. And I believe this is her 11th year doing community cleanup in our city, and it's come to fruition to go across the city, and thank you to Councillor Miller. Lastly, just a little pitch is that we are back offering our downtown walking, food, and history tours. The first one happening again is on Saturday, May 21st, and it's $15. All proceeds go to the PA Historical Society, and it's myself and also an individual through the PA Historical Society, Fred Payton, and we take you and lead the group and talk about the history of different architecture in our downtown, some really great historical stories downtown, and we stop in at 3 different local restaurants so you can sample some food. So you get some food, some history, and a walk, and we're really excited to offer it again. Tickets are purchased at the PA Historical Museum.
Thank you. Yep, and thank you for recognizing Charlene. I was going to do that too, as our leader when it comes to cleanup. Okay, I'll move to number 14, inquiries. No inquiries? Oh, we got one. Councillor Zierakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of inquiries. The The development, as you know, in the city is a great thing to see. It's happening more and more, and it's definitely picking up speed. In particular, you're aware of the new construction going on the southwest corner of the city, west of 6A Avenue, west, with those units going in there. I guess along Woodbridge it would be, on the other
Yes.
side of the back alley. The issue is that there's a number of concrete trucks are going through the residential area. And I know over the last year and a half, they were asked specifically to use Woodbridge, and that's why we did not put the second layer of asphalt on Woodbridge so that they wouldn't tear up those softer residential streets. So I'm just wondering if we could reach out to them and remind them of their commitment and ask them to use that route that was agreed upon. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other inquiries? Okay, moving on. Number 15. Yeah, okay, your light's back.
Yep. So the other one I had is if we can look at issuing a custom work order, and you know what that means, a custom work order for that development that I mentioned along Woodbridge. It's been going on for the past year and a half, better part of 2.5 years really, and it's pretty bad there, as you know. They've used the street for their materials. They've pulled some of the dirt out of the ground, and it still remains over the top of the street. So I wonder if we could take a look, if the department take a look at doing a custom work order and send that back to the developer to make sure that gets done.
And a good point, and they still haven't repaired when cement trucks drove over the sidewalk. Oh, no, sorry, that was an excavator. It drove over the sidewalk and it's broken, pretty bad. But I did notice in this next house that they put dirt across the sidewalk. But yeah, I agree with you, Councillor. The street is it's time that somebody cleans it, and it's their responsibility. There's only 2 developers on that side, so I'd charge them both because they both made equal messes, and you used our property, you know, as storage. But I would check underneath the diggings of the dirt when they're done, because they probably broke that sidewalk as well. And just putting a dirt thing over so you can get over the ramp does not protect the sidewalk. So if you could do that too, if you don't mind that, being added in to check for damage. Okay, go ahead. You were going to comment, Director?
Yes, all of those kind of deficiencies and things that they've done to their own subdivision that cause damage, when they request substantial completion inspection, that's when we hit them with a list of everything that they have to complete, or we won't accept the subdivision and we won't give up their bond. So we're holding money against them, and we'll be certain to make sure every broken sidewalk or catch basin or whatever other issue they'll have to address, or they're not getting their money. Or then we move in and do the work and take it out of the bond.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll move on to number 15, inquiry responses. Councillor Brodnick.
I'll move that the inquiry responses be received as information and filed.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Miller.
Yes, Mayor, I'll second.
Okay, I'll prompt the question. Question is now open. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, number 16, notice of motions. No, 1 second. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have one, and it reads that the facilitate a working group to focus on crime, addictions, and aggressive loitering occurring in the city of Prince Albert. An invite to the working group will include, but not limited to, members of council, representatives from the Board of Police Commission, the PA Grand Council, Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, FSIN, chiefs from First Nations near PA and north, MLA Hargrave, MLA Ross, related government agencies, and members from the Federal Liberal Party. and I ask to be heard tonight. Ask for leave.
Okay. Can I get your light off? Okay, I have a motion that the City of Prince Albert disallow issuing permits any developer or contractor with outstanding permit requires or financial obligations to the city. For example, this includes building permits, development permits, landscaping taxes, and lease fees, etc. No. It's not an emergency. Okay? Anyone else? No? So we'll move on to motions. The first motion that we have, 17.1, Councillor Zierakowski.
Yes, Your Worship, I move the motion
Oh.
in front of us.
You're late, sorry.
That administration prepare a report that clearly details options to amend the responsible pet ownership bylaw number 13 of 2021 as it speaks to the feeding of crows, pigeons, and other birds that have the potential to become a nuisance to the surrounding neighborhood for consideration by members of council. If I get a seconder, I'd like to speak to it if I could.
Okay, seconder? Councillor Edwards,
I'll second that, Your Worship.
thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Zierakowski.
Thank you. So after speaking to a number of residents over the past little while, and of course getting the advice of administration, it's clear that this bylaw needs another look when it comes to animals like pigeons, especially if those 60 to 100-ish pigeons live next door to you by night and live in your backyard by day, and the issues that are caused by those numerous pigeons. So what I'm asking council for, if you'd be willing to take a look at a report prepared by administration to shore up some of the gaps on this issue.
Okay, I have one question for you from my neighbor. What do you mean by other birds? She has hummingbirds. She's quite a collection of hummingbird feeders in her garden that she watches all the time, and some kind of finch. And so she's concerned that your bylaw would affect her from continuing her practice.
I think that's really good, important information for administration to hear. My motivation for bringing this here was the issue of pigeons.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to restrict that as we ask administration to create a report.
Okay, as long as because I support crows and pigeons 100%. But the other birds, when she phoned me, I never thought about it till she phoned me.
Yeah.
And then I looked
Hummingbirds.
around and there's quite a few people that have bird feeders.
Love hummingbirds. Wouldn't be on my feed if it was just hummingbirds.
Okay. And I love blue jays, but my neighbor just calls them a well-dressed crow. Because they wake you up in the morning. That's the only problem with blue jays. Peanuts, I love them. Okay, any other comments or discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Your light, Dad. Please. Okay. Motion's now open. And carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to get Councillor Edwards to get up and make a motion to request leave be granted to hear his motion tonight, and then the seconder, and then we'll vote on it, and if he gets 100% vote, then leave will be granted. To hear his motion tonight. You're up, Councillor Edwards. Oh. Sorry.
No problem. So do I need to read my motion
No,
over again?
you just,
Not yet.
no,
This
we
is
already
just-
know you just asked for
Okay, I
leave.
so move that leave be granted to hear my motion tonight.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards? Councillor Edwards, sorry.
I'll
Councillor
second that, Your
Edwards.
Worship, thank you.
Okay. Now I've got to figure out which way to go. Okay, yeah, as long as it's not towards the motion. Go ahead. Oh. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, just a question for the mover. Is there a specific reason that it needs to be heard tonight, or as opposed to
was thinking
letting
of
us think about the wording of the motion and having it at a future meeting? It's about
Yeah.
leave being granted
It's-
for tonight.
No, I allowed that question.
Yep.
She's asked you directly on leave.
Yeah. for
She's
sure.
asking you why it's important tonight and not next meeting where we got a chance to think about your motion.
Sure, absolutely. It's a problem that's not going away, and we all know about it, and it's a carry-on from what I discussed in March of bringing everybody together, and the more it waits, we're gonna go over summer, and then it's gonna be further on into the fall, and then we're not gonna get organized until Christmas.
Okay. Okay, so it's important that we need 2/3 to pass, so we have 8 members. Six. Okay, everyone understand the motion?
Terry, do you have to put the motion up? Yeah, where is he gonna get the motion? Does he have
Yeah.
the motion? Terry has to put the motion up for you.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm looking for it, yeah. It's not there. Okay, just 1 minute, she's got to put a motion up.
Leave. Okay, so just go to the bottom.
Yeah, I've got it. Okay, the motion's now open. Motion carries 7-1. Okay, so your motion is up, Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, so I can tell you.
Ooh. Okay,
So the motion reads that the city facilitate a working group to focus on crime, addictions, aggressive loitering occurring in the city of Prince Albert,
that's different than what he asked leave for.
period. An invite to the working group will include, but not limited to, members of council, representatives from the Board of Police Commission, the PA Grand Council, got it, okay, Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, FSIN, chiefs from the First Nations near PA and north, MLA Hargrave, MLA Ross, related government agencies, and members from the Federal Liberal Party.
Yeah, good luck. Seconder? Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that motion.
Okay,
I do have a question, though, about the motion, if I can.
not yet, you're not in the
Okay.
queue yet. So I need everyone to shut the lights off so I can readjust the queue. Okay,
Do you want me to speak to it first?
no, yeah, just a minute. Councillor Zepp, if you could hold off, Councillor Bowden. Councillor Zepp, could you put your light back on? Councillor Head, this is the order they were in, but they canceled out. Councillor Abrodnik, Councillor Zierakowski, and then myself is going to speak on it. Okay, so do you want to speak on it or hear all our questions? Or
No, I wouldn't mind doing a little spiel on it first.
Okay,
you're
go ahead, sir.
Knowing where I come from?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, the reason I bring this forward, it's a very similar motion that I brought forward before regarding the homeless in Prince Albert. And some of the focuses I mentioned are linked, but not all are the same, to the same extent. Personally, I hold some hope that we can find some solutions in our small city to address some of these concerns. But the we cannot just be City Council or the Mayor of Prince Albert. We have to work together to address these issues that are negatively impacting our residents and people visiting our community. All people, and I repeat, all people want to feel safe in our neighborhoods. No matter where you live, all people want to feel safe when shopping. We know the same issues exist in Regina and Saskatoon, in those cities, just to name a few, but there are pockets and may not be quite as visible. The reality is, we all know someone in the city that is concerned about the crime occurring, whether that be being to vehicles being checked at night, and if open, getting ransacked and things stolen, or garages being broke into and vehicles being stolen. Is there a pattern to where these vehicles may end up or where the property goes? Maybe. We know much of the crime is linked to substance abuse or mental health or poverty. We know much of the drug trade are controlled by gangs who intimidate people to not report their behavior. Property crime and violent crime is on the rise, and it seems like society today is forced to think this is the new normal. But does it have to be? Personally, I don't think it should be. I have hope that our kids can head to the convenience store and the parents don't have to be worried. I don't know, maybe I'm dreaming. We've talked about the loitering in our city, which continues. People waiting for our loonies, blocking where you're supposed to put the cart. That's one of the smaller issues. Can these issues be resolved by police? Maybe some, certainly not all. Then what happens if the police try to arrest their way out of this? The courts then often throw the cases out, or people just get put back on the streets ready to reoffend repeatedly. The reality is we need to talk together to find positive solutions. We need the senior levels of government to work with us to find solutions. We need our local governments, including us, to hold people accountable, including the First Nations and the bands and the local city council. But in the end, we need to find solutions. We need to work together now before it's too late. This is why I bring this forward. This isn't being talked about at the senior levels of government. The issues that are happening right now, The crime is on the rise. We need to talk about it. We need to move forward, and we need to do it quickly. Some people are losing sleep at night because of the people that once upon a time checked our door handles to our cars are checking our door handles to our homes. And that's concerning. How do we fix it? Well, we don't fix it by turning a blind eye. And I don't want to do it any longer. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about within groups. We need to gather people together. I know we tried this with the homeless initiative, but we need people to gather to find solutions, and that's why I'm putting this forward. Summertime is particularly noticeable in our city, for whatever reason. Let's work together with all people. Let's bring all these people together, all the groups, as many as we can get, and find some solutions. That's good for me for now. Thank
Two questions before you go. So Dr. Nelson is coming to our next meeting to explain his project. It's not related to his project. This is going to just target crime? Yes.
No, this is, certainly it's going to be linked. There's no question about it. Some of the homeless that he's going to be talking about certainly are affected by addictions and maybe even the aggressive loitering. Are they really the people committing the crimes, the violent crimes? Not really. Not really. This isn't strictly about addictions or homeless. Certainly it's linked. I certainly look forward to hearing from Dr. Nelson. I wish we could have got the group together that was formed prior and have some of the discussions, but that hasn't occurred, mostly due to COVID. We've had large gatherings now. It's time to put a group in the room and have these discussions.
Okay, my last question is who in the city? You say that the city facilitates. This is a huge project that you're asking, and it's going to take quite a bit of time. So I need you to explain to me who you mean by city. Like you said, the city facilitate.
Sure.
We have to assign that to somebody that has the time or the knowledge or the skill to do that. So
I think
I
it's
need to narrow
important
that down.
initially to put it into the city manager's designation to distribute it out as necessary.
So you don't have an answer, you just, we'll give it to city manager to sort out.
Well, Mayor Dion, that's the area that would figure it out anyway. So this is where it should go now, initially. Certainly it could be worked out. Certainly it could be put out. Maybe we designate one of or more of city council to organize it.
Okay, I'll go down the list now. Just so you know, I have Councillor Zepp, Councillor Head, Councillor Botnick, Councillor Zirakowski. So Councillor Zepp, you're up.
Question for the city manager. I do understand that we do have a homelessness report coming from Dr. Nelson to council. But separate to that, council had voted previously to form a working group on the issue of homelessness and had a list of people that we would ask to be invited, a similar list as today. My question is, have we yet proceeded on that working group inviting those representatives?
I didn't think that happened.
No, we haven't. We are waiting on Dr. Nelson's report.
Okay.
Your phone, you're sitting on it. Okay. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a couple questions for the mover, although I did second it. We had some discussion. I have some comments to make, but some of the lists are absent. I know we can always expand this list, but I want to point out right away Randy Hoback,
Put them on there.
Chad Nelson.
You should solve it.
I look at, you mentioned the police commissioners. To me, I specifically maybe our beat inspectors, our proactive policing units, our neighborhood watch groups. Those are all ones I think should be. And of course, the representatives of that commission board would be on there. So those are questions, I guess, for you. If that's something you're wanting to expand or be a little more specific about it. I do think we have to do something. And I realize why you're bringing this forward, Councillor Edwards. We are coming up to another summer. And I don't know, all of us in this room can contest that we've gotten a lot of calls over the months last year, and even to the fall. Like we looked at our homeless crisis, I'll say, and we tried to address that, but it wasn't quick enough for me. I'm on this committee. We met once or twice, and we still haven't. We're coming to a report now, and it's now in May. So it is concerning. I think we have to move on something this. I mean, my residents, constituents are frustrated. Every night I'm on this neighborhood watch or morning, I see with some of the things that have transpired in the neighborhoods, and it has to stop. It has to stop. And I agree, maybe not always, it's not all addictions translates to some of the crime we're seeing in our city. I realize that. There's different fights, but I think it's this will address some of that, or maybe just come up with some solutions on how we can address. I don't expect immediate answers, and here's how we're going to fix it, but here's how we're going to sit down and talk and work together. It has to start somewhere. I think that this motion is timely and definitely willing to support it. I can say so much more about it, but I think I'll stop there. Thank you for bringing this forward, Councillor Edwards.
Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think anybody in this room is against this. However, I think we could do all the talking we want.
Thank you.
We need action. And the only place we're going to get action is in the court system. Or with Dr. Nielsen in looking at what is the root cause of all of this. And that's why I think this motion should be maybe after Dr. Nielsen's presentation. When we look at what is the core problem, that's what he wanted to address. And homelessness, he was looking at homelessness, which leads to addictions, which leads to theft, etc. There is a link. Not all homeless people are drug addicts or criminals. I'm not saying that, but there is a link, I think, is what he kind of alluded to us, and he wants to give us the facts. And so once we have the facts, then I think we already have a committee that is going to look at addressing all of these issues. It's like when we had some councillors that wanted to open up homeless shelters and convert, and we said, no, we're undermining the working group. We're undermining Dr. Nielsen's work and that working group. So is this motion undermining that as well? I don't know. I would have preferred it had we waited till after Dr. Nielsen's presentation to us so that we actually know what is the root cause of all of these social issues in Prince Albert. Secondly, like I hear from a lot of people that they're frustrated with first of all, they'll say the police, and then I'll say, well, did the police do something? Yes, they did. And then when it goes to court, that's where they're frustrated, is perhaps with the court system. Now, if you have an addiction, do you belong in prison? I don't know. Do you belong in an addiction center? Probably, is what I would say. And so, I don't know. I don't know if we are going to solve this problem. I applaud Councillor Edwards, your intent on this, and I support it, but I think we need, as I said, I'll repeat, we should wait for Dr. Nielsen's report and then proceed from there what we do and who we involve in this process. So I don't want to look like I'm voting against solving crime, because I'm not. I just think, as I said, we need to wait a week
And I agree
until
with
the
that.
next executive meeting.
We spent all this money to find out what the problem is. Okay. Councillor Zirakowski.
Thank you. I've listened to the comments around the room, and I want to pick up on what was just said. And good thoughts by everybody for sure. And we all want to see some action on this issue. There's no doubt about it. The question is how. And I see Dr. Nielsen's report as part of this process. It's part of this process coming forward that can be melded into this ask that's before us today. Because if we don't move forward on this, and we've been talking about this for years now, even before this current council came into form, we've talked about this before this council was in the room together. And yet there's been no concrete movement. So I agree, let's take Dr. Nielsen's information that's coming to us and let's meld it into this motion that's before us. Yes, let's use it as a springboard to move forward for that information, to get the experts in the room. I'm frankly, well, I'm frustrated, and I know you folks are as well. If we had the magic button, if we knew what switch to throw, we would have thrown it already. But nobody has the single answer in the pocket, because I believe it's going to take 300 single solutions to make some movement on this issue, to find solutions. It's going to take a lot. It's not one. It's going to take many solutions. And I think that's what we have to move forward to is, let's talk to people. Let's find solutions through conversations. Let's get the experts in the room. Let's get the people with the power to make decisions in the room, to listen to the experts, to collaboratively come forward with an action plan, with a number of solutions. I've talked to a number of people over the years, and I know you folks have as well. We've talked to the police, we've talked to the judges, we've talked to the MLAs, we've talked to the experts, we've talked to the judges and police, and every single time the conversation ends up with, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Oh, we can't do that, Ted. We can't talk about that publicly. Yeah, we need to. We need to. We need to come together in a room and have an honest conversation and come up with some action and with some solutions. And this gets us moving forward on that. And I'm excited to see Dr. Nielsen's report. And he's one of the experts that I would see around the room, in the room, being a part of this collaborative solution-making process. And we don't need an expert leading this process. We need a facilitator leading the process, leading this meeting, so that everybody is heard and solutions are brought on the table so we can move forward on them. So I'm in favor of this motion. I'm tired of talking about this. In fact, we had a similar motion 6 years ago before the second last election. Let's get everybody together in the same room. Let's invite people. And if they refuse to come, we could publicly shame them by putting a name tag on the table and saying they're not there. So I think we've evolved since then. Many of us have talked to our counterparts, but we need to move on this. It's not good enough to sit on our hands. We need more, and our public demands it. So passing this motion does not put us at risk. I think it shows that we're doing something about it, and even more than that, we will be doing something about it. And so I think we're at that point now. We know how slow democracy is. It's the month of May, and then it's the summer, and then it's budget, and then it's spring again. The timeline is critical. If this doesn't pass before summer, we won't be able, and it is a Herculean effort to pull this together. But if people want to be in the room talking about solutions, they'll be there. If people want solutions, they'll bring the experts with them. So don't be afraid of this motion. Let's step forward and let's get something done.
God, I almost thought it was your motion. Good speech. Okay, I have a couple comments. I'm a little hesitant too because Dr. Nelson's report, I'm putting lots in his hands strictly to tell us what the problem is, okay? And that's what we've hired him for. And we're going to have that report long before. That list is so long, I don't know how we're going to get all 3-4 levels of government to agree to a date. So, but we'll put the date in, like you said. Who I am excited about is we have another group out there that you may not be aware of. The Chamber of Commerce has joined together with the Construction Association and have had 2 meetings now. Their next meeting now is going to be with the judges and the prosecutors because they're targeting on what the solution and what the problem is. And they had a very good panel, a very good debate there. And their debate was more on they're getting out that their debate is that the justice system, and I agree with this statement, does not put weight into property crime. They put no weight. So someone broke into your house and stole all your stuff. It's just stuff, and that's frustrating because it's my stuff. And I worked 30 years to get that stuff. And when one person can come in my house and wipe it out in a day, sorry, that's high priority to me. My home is my castle, and I do believe that. that if one place you should be safe and secure is in your own home. So I'm going to support the motion, even though I'm hesitant. I'm going to support the motion just because then we can put it to bed on how many people will come to the meeting. I know all the local people will. I hope the government will send somebody. I hope. They haven't, I've had 5 requests. They haven't sent anyone ever since we lost Goodale, but we can hope. But it'll be interesting to see how many people we can get to the table. I know all the local people we will, but the 2 other levels of government are well aware of the problem. We did an extensive report, a 29-page report to the province from the police commission, asking why you have to fund officers, why we need more programs. We know we need more addiction beds. You know, we need quite a bit to solve this problem. So I do believe the answers are out there. I just believe the 2 levels of government above us are just hesitant to do it because they know the cost. And it's not going to be cheap, you know. And so, you know, I'm going to do it. But I am going to lean on Councillor. He said that some councillors should be involved, so I'm going to lean on Councillor Edwards. It's his motion. This is a big project, and some of these MLAs and MPs have to get a call from a councillor, not a city employee. So I'm going to lead on Councillor Edwards to be part of the committee to put these groups together, and I will be supporting for the motion. Any other discussion before I go to Councillor Edwards to close? Okay, you're up, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Your Worship. This isn't an easy topic. It's not something we're going to solve overnight, but it's not something we're ever going to solve if we don't discuss it and bring people together. That's the bottom line. The homeless issue certainly is part of this, but you can't tell me that the homeless people are going around stealing vehicles on a regular basis. That's not who's doing this. Dr. Nielsen's report is certainly going to be part of it. I think Councillor Zurkowski said that well. It's got to be part of this, and it's going to be part of the solution. No question about it. We spent money on it to find out good details of why we have so many homeless people coming to our city or from our city that are now homeless. He's going to say these are some of the reasons, and they're going to be linked. There's no question about that. I wanted to gather a group together over that to discuss it, which would filter out some of these issues that I brought up tonight. We never did that. We need to have people in the same room. There's a lot of brilliant minds out there. We're going to probably have some debates on how to fix things, but the bottom line is the people of Prince Albert are looking for the city. We get blamed. We get blamed. They're looking for us to be leaders. And whether that's leadership to solve it, not a chance can we solve this alone. We need to bring people together. We need to bring the senior levels of government in the room. And if they're not willing to come, then we need to get the public to try and encourage them highly to come with multiple phone calls. Whatever it is, they got to come and they got to listen to the issues in Prince Albert. This is who I care about right now. I care about our kids growing up in a safe environment. Right now, I've talked to many First Nations leaders. They're willing to step up and talk about this issue. They're willing to get into the room, and they're dealing with some of the similar areas in their own communities that are linked. They want to come to the table. They're ready. They're part of it. We've got to have that invite. Not everybody's going to get there. Councillor Head, you mentioned neighborhood watch groups. Absolutely, they hold some value. They have to be part of the solution. One meeting isn't going to solve this. This is a long process. If we get one step out of one meeting and it's a positive, fantastic. It's going to be a process. This isn't going to be solved probably until all of us are long off council. But if we can find some positive solutions and get small wins going, that's important. It's important to all of us, I believe, in this room. It's like a strategic plan on how we're going to deal with the crime and the issues I said in the community. So I asked for the support for this. It's very similar to what I've brought before with regards to the homeless. I think likely all of those names on there were linked to a meeting that we probably should have had. We didn't. We need to have it. We need to get everybody in the room. Let's work together. Let's help solve some of these issues and have some wins. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna prompt the call.
Randy Holback's name on there.
Sure. We'll put the local MP on there, Randy Holback.
The largest constituency in Canada, and you missed them.
What was it again?
That's the largest constituency in Canada.
I just wondered who it was.
Okay.
And just to clarify, there was not limited statement in part of that motion.
You ready? You ready? Okay, the motion's now open. It passes unanimously that Councillor Edwards is the chair. Okay, no public forum. One more motion.
Thank you, Worship. I'll motion to adjourn.
Seconder? Charlene Miller?
I'll second.
Thank you. No one move. I'm prompting the question. Where did adjournment go?
Right there.
Oh, right there. Oh, yeah. We didn't go in order. Okay, everyone vote and we're out of here. Carried unanimously. See everyone. Very good meeting.